That's true. Maybe I should stay on that one.
It's been a while. Social batteries, though.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, where should we see us so that these folks can hear us? That's the question.
Somewhat.
Make sure you see up there.
Right. For another day.
So we're like even close up.
Okay. Maybe behind.
Where's the goalpost for orientation?
Yeah.
Like,
You're on campus, it's to the left. Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Well, great. It's also time to start. So can they hear us?
Let's ask.
Joe, can you hear us?
Great.
Well, welcome. Good morning, everybody. I'm really excited to see all of you again. It's been too long since we got to meet in late March. Yeah, so I'm Sarah Moorhead. I work for the Conservation Center in Grazing County. We'll do a whole round of introductions of folks that are here to share information, folks on the call. We want to know all of you, where you're from, what you're doing, what's your operation. Some of you have been here before, and we also have some new faces. So we'd love to hear a little bit about who you are and where you're from and why you're here. And then maybe after that, we'll go over some of the objectives of this group and what we're set up today. So thank you all for joining us and taking the time to be here, either in person or virtually. And thank you especially to Sierra, who is making this hybrid option happen, which is a feat. So with that, maybe Sierra, Team WC, you want to introduce our presenters and partners first?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Sierra Smith. I work for WSU Extension, and I'm going to be helping facilitate the Grazing Association, one of the education events that we do over the next several years. Oh, thanks for coming. Take another bite.
Yeah. My name is Laura Carmen White, Communications and Education Manager at Conservation. Oh, you're good. And this is Allie. Allie's the do you want to move to Stephen?
Stephen, do you want to introduce yourself? You're on mute.
Very good. There we go. How about now? Great. Nice to see everybody there from a distance anyway. Stephen Bramwell. I work with Washington State University Extension. And yeah, real excited about a group of livestock producers getting together and making more business opportunities and more friends and more learning opportunities. Good to see you this morning.
My name is Sarah Kemet. I am fellow with the Igfc Institute, and so we're focused largely on integrating and incorporating conservation actions and opportunities. Start over my own?
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely start. Why don't we go ahead and start it? Let's people up front. We'll just work our way around and then we'll over to the folks on the phone.
I'm Hannah Fosnock with Lewis Conservation District. I'm a planner there, and I do the Lewis County Stream Team.
Kelly Bird, Lewis Conservation District. I'm the Special Projects Coordinator.
Carolyn Pascal, I'm with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Partners Program. We basically provide financial and technical assistance for fractional interference before the winter restore their and I'm based in Livestock.
And I'll just remind folks in the room to speak really loud because I want to make sure the folks on the phone hear you.
Yeah, and I'm an old man and I don't hear well, so talking loud is a good idea. I have a small farm in Rochester. I raise sheep and pasture poultry.
What's your name, sir?
Pardon?
What's your name, sir?
Move on.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Big George. I'm state coordinator for the Partners for Fish and Wildlife Program along with Cassie, and excited to be here and bring resources to the community. Help this group build a sense of community and bring incentives wherever we can to help out.
My name is Corey Christopherson. I'm an aspiring creamery owner operator. I originally was thinking of owning land and purchasing land, but I have a background in culinary arts, and I figured I'll focus on what I know and start with butter, and then work towards it. But this is a great place to start.
Ron Nelson, farm from Niner.
Organic Valley, Whisper. It's the whole species.
Hi, I'm Fred Baldwin, Old Ranch Son, which battle with this.
Alex Sturdy, ranch manager at Golden Ranch, and here mostly for community, as well as obviously getting resources and that's actually Larson out of Niner, Washington. We've got cattle and sheep and also the executive director for the Washington State Sheep Producers. So here's the resources for that.
My name is Sabra Noyce, and my interest is primarily restoration of the habitat of 35 acres. But I'm very dependent on the cattle producers to look at grazing the property and how they can achieve my long-term goals.
My name is Melissa Halpnick, and I work with Sarah at Cascades.
I'm Yvonne. I work with the Northwest Agriculture Business Center.
All right, I think we have everyone in the room. Yes, we'll move over to the folks on the phone. Joe, you want to introduce yourself? You're at the top of the screen.
Yeah, Joe Hanna, Rainier Valley Wagyu in East Olympia, and I'm also the chair of the Thurston Board of County Commissioners Ag Advisory Committee.
Great, thanks, Joe. Roxy? And Roxy, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. All right, we'll come back. I see someone else on screen, but your name is Zoom user. Carissa.
Hi, I'm Carissa Miller. Yeah, that's me. I'm Carissa. I actually also am a seasonal temp Eco Studies Institute, just starting out, and I'm excited to meet you and Sarah and Melissa at some point, but I'm also a grazer and I keep sheep and in the Nisqually Valley.
Wonderful. And then we have two. Go ahead.
Huh?
I think that's our echo.
That's our echo. Great. It's just me. We have two phone numbers on the call, 2221.
One of those might be Joe.
All right, anyone else who's on the call and wants to unmute and introduce yourself, please do. And I'm so sorry we can't hear you.
That's Nancy.
What?
That's Nancy from Ncmpc.
Oh, that's Nancy.
Oh, hi Nancy. We can't hear you, but maybe we can work on troubleshooting your audio. that
Sounds
sound?
good. Yeah, I'll work with Nancy here.
Great. Well, that's fair. So we'll move forward with today our objectives and the objectives of the association here. Mostly for those of you that are new, especially, I think Alex said it really well, it's to form community, right? It's to come together, it's to share information, to share strategies, to share resources, to share needs with folks that are doing similar things to you. Share knowledge, transfer knowledge. We're building this community and making sure that there's a venue and a space for that knowledge transfer to happen. The other thing too is that folks like me and other districts and Sarah and WSU and our Parks and Wildlife program and everyone else who are service providers to producers in our community are here to listen. So you guys get to share a lot of needs and feedback to us that helps direct our programming. It helps direct the educational opportunities that we provide. It helps direct the resources that we build to meet the needs that you have. So the information that you share is invaluable because all of us are community-led organizations. So we rely on this feedback directly from you and turn it directly to programming and resources to help you. So we appreciate this immensely. And we hope you can find value in creating community together and sharing information. So today we're going to move forward with a review from our last Grazing Association meeting. A lot of the priorities, and Sarah, I'm going to turn the mic over to Sarah. There's another one, there's two of us, I'm confused. I'm going to turn the mic over to Sarah in a minute. She's going to share a lot of the feedback that you guys provided at our last Grazing Association meeting about areas that you need additional support or are interested in this Grazing Association coming together to support you in. After that, we're going to move on. We've got some amazing guest speakers. We have Nancy on the phone. We have Yvonne here. We're going to hear some excellent presentations from them. We're also going to move forward with sharing outreach events, educational opportunities, some of the things that are coming up that we want you to be aware of that you might find useful. At the end of our meeting today, we're also going to ask for volunteers to be a liaison, to help really guide this Grazing Association and the work that this Grazing Association does, and help just guide those products, be a liaison with your service providers, sharing information and helping to sort of steward this effort moving forward. So if that sounds like a game plan, I'll turn it over to Sarah.
All right. Thank you. And not to put you on the spot, but I want to give you an opportunity for the just came in. Can you introduce yourself real quick?
Sure.
And where are you from?
What's that?
Where are you from? And what are you looking for?
Livestock.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Sorry to call you out. Just wanted to make sure we all know who each other is here. But thank you again for coming today. And sorry, I can move over here. Maybe I'll be on the screen. Or maybe not. So just wanted to give a quick overview of some of the topics that were discussed at a meeting we held back in October. Several of you were at that meeting, many of you were not. So I think there should be enough, well, maybe there's not enough copies on all the tables. Need some more. Need some copies. So this is the farmer feedback sheet that we're looking at. And for folks online, if you have access to that, this is basically, we asked a couple questions at the last meeting about what you as producers need in order to be successful. And we had 4 different categories. What do you need to be successful in managing land, in managing livestock, with markets and marketing, and then again, what educational and training resources would you like to see would help your operations? And so this is a kind of condensed summary. I know there's a lot of reading here, but a condensed summary of the main topics and the main resources and the main tools that you all identify as necessary or as helpful for your operations. And so this is really because there's a lot of new folks here. We wanted to give an opportunity for you all to just kind of digest this a little bit and talk about it at each of the tables. And so there's the 4 questions on the front, then there's actually a couple of things on the back as well. On the back, this relates to the different tools or kind of educational events or opportunities, resources that you would like to actually see presented and available. So if you can, in your, like, create small groups basically for each table, and then online, I think Stephen's gonna help to lead a breakout room online, talking about these 4 questions. What do you need to be successful in managing land? What do you need to be successful in managing livestock? What do you need for markets and marketing? And then what education, training, and training resources you'd like to see. So if you can just review what's on the sheet and talk amongst yourselves for about 10 minutes, then we will come back to the main group and see if there's anything, just to see how these resonate. If there's anything else that you want to add, or if you think some of these maybe could come off the list that aren't as relevant for you and your operations, that would be helpful for us to just get additional feedback there. And then once we have that short discussion, we'll move on to the next part of the agenda. So take a few minutes, talk amongst yourselves, and think about we're gonna report this back out in terms of how this resonates with you to the larger group. And then Stephen,
Yeah.
I can make a breakout.
Sounds like talking all at once. Seems promising. If you can create a breakout group, we can join it, because otherwise we can't really talk to each other. You're muted now, Sierra. But okay, yeah.
So with the muted, I think we can.
Oh, I think we just got booted into our group, did we?
Oh, I think just being there muted, we can talk.
Yeah.
We have to unmute ourselves.
Okay. Let's see. Hey, Joe.
Hey.
Hey, is Roxy here too, or who are the other people who were online?
I don't know if is it.
Yeah, let's work. You there?
So Stephen, do you have this handout available to share to us? Or
I can, yeah. Do you have I can email it to you right now, Joe, because it's on my email. Well, let's see. If you didn't get it, we're looking
yeah.
for. There we go. And remind me, what's your name? I forgot. I'm sorry. Are you Vivian's niece? You're on mute.
Chris,
I
and
think-
I'm Vivian's niece, indeed.
Okay. Okay. What was your name again? It just came off mute.
Carissa.
Carissa. Chris, what's your email? Can look.
It's carissa.gonzo@gmail.com.
Is it Carissa with a K?
With a C, so it's CARISSA.
Got it. Oh, look, it comes right up. Great. Now my battery's running low. Yeah, then you can pull up the PDF.
Oh, on the email. Okay. I'm using my phone right now, so it's not the easiest.
And I could read a couple of them too. Joe, did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah.
Did you see my chat, Stephen? Did you see my chat, Stephen?
Not yet. I can look at that.
So we're supposed to go over these and talk about which ones that we care the most about or don't care about, or what is the?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of figure out what jumps and what looks like important. And
Did you say you were emailing?
oh, there's another person. Is that you?
Roxy.
Roxy.
Yeah, my name's Roxy. I'm with Kippert's Corner Feed.
What is your email? I have a little
It's
feed.
Roxy, ROXY,
Mhm.
at Kipperts.com.
Oh, great. I see. Okay, you should get that. Is everybody getting a feed?
Yeah.
I think it's the fact that we got the speaker on the event breakout room. Let me see if I can.
Can I add something to the first question?
Yeah.
And I know this is, I've been talking to the conservation district a bit about this too. Is a tractor, like tractor services that are like more affordable. There are some like local resources. That would be really helpful.
For rental.
Yeah, for rental. And like post hole diggers and stuff, or augers or things like that would be cool. But I guess that might be managing livestock. Yeah. Next question.
Sorry about my feedback. I only have one device on. It's definitely annoying.
Oh, I don't hear it.
Oh, good.
So Stephen, I know we've talked about the COVID money available for potential of the CD increasing their rental access. Is there any requirement that they be quote unquote competitive with their pricing?
Say that once more, just with the feedback I got sort of lost.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to pause. I know the committee has talked about the CD using COVID money to increase their rental access and what's available related to her question. Is there any requirement that they be competitive in their pricing, being they're a quasi-government agency compared to what it costs? Because I agree with her, it would be great to be able to have access to additional rental equipment, but if they have a requirement to be competitive and not be, $50 a day to rent a tractor versus $350 from the local rental agencies, then it's maybe or maybe not great use of the resource.
Yeah. Well, it actually looks like the echo went away. That's good. Well, I it's something we could find out. I don't know it personally off the top of my head, but with opt for equipment that's not available, it's not a concern. So I'd wonder about like the Pierce district. They have their direct seed drill. They can probably choose their rates pretty flexibly. I don't know what that would mean in relation to like a tractor when you can get it commercially, if the district has to be is not supposed to outcompete. But maybe the application, I don't know. Yeah, we can find it out though, Joe. It's a good question.
I never did get that email, so just want to check with you. It's roxy@kiperts.com.
Okay, maybe it's just, is it 1P or 2?
1. That's
why. Sorry about that. I should know better. I go to Kipperts. ROXY@KIPERTSE.
No E. KIPERTS.com.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Okay.
See if that comes through, Roxy. Something that I know that we were interested in was a sense of the, maybe I wouldn't say we don't need to like prioritize them, but just a little relative importance around things that could take a lot of time, like animal care, vet care, general animal livestock healthcare. How important is that? I mean, I think we're pretty excited to provide it, and we're planning on it because a lot of people mentioned it.
So you're
Chris,
skipping down to number 2 or the second question?
Oh, I was. Stay up above though if we're not ready to move off land.
Well, on the land side of it, I would also comment that, in Thurston County, we're definitely working, trying to come up with recommendations related to the number 5 there, the zoning and taxation. That's been an ongoing discussion, and with the ag plan open in Thurston County, I hoping that it will be an ongoing discussion with the Board of County Commissioners.
Roxy, did you get the file?
I did get something, but it's about meat producer organizations. Is that what you wanted to send me?
We'll hear from that one. That one's the next. I was on the wrong email. You'll get this one now. You'll see that in a minute because that's Yvonne's slides. There you go. You should have it now. Go ahead, Chris. You had a comment. We can't hear you though. We can't see you now, but we nor hear you. Oh shoot, now you're gone. She just left. Well, she'll be back. Roxy or Joe, more land topics of interest to you. In particular, we're going to have an upcoming watering and irrigation system session. So I don't know if there's any areas around that where you have particular interest and want to learn, because that's getting planned for May.
Will that be like the legal guy that they had before? I mean, because I have an irrigation right, but I really don't know how to use it.
Well, we could say that's a great input. Yeah. Okay. Is it that you don't know how to use it, or verify it, or just actually to make sure that you're using it correctly?
Yeah, all of that, I guess.
Okay, just a general over. Okay. Well, to know if you have an irrigation right. Okay, that's great. Yeah, some of it'll be, that's a really good addition. What we had thought about so far were practical resources on the kind of the physical infrastructure in terms of watering systems, irrigation, fencing. But no doubt that water right information would go along with that topic really well. We probably have to dive in even more later on sometime, but we could try to find somebody out to give an overview in that regard too. Roxy, we also sometimes try to have equipment, for people to look at. So that's an opportunity for Kipperts in terms of the products that you make available.
Yeah.
If you have any information, hand out, want to take a, if you want to speak at that and talk about the shop a little.
As far as irrigation?
As far as fencing or irrigation, but I was thinking fencing with your
And what
Gallagher.
specific? Yeah, we do New Zealand, Gallagher. We have
Mhm.
lots of Canadian posts. We try to use all USA posts and wire.
Mhm.
Hard
Yeah.
to get, and prices
Okay.
going higher.
Yeah. Ouch. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah.
But we
well,
really stocked up for this year, so we could kind of be ahead, hopefully.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, I think we're gonna try to get our Gallagher representative, and if you have any recommendations, that'd be welcome.
I'm happy to move to the next one.
Okay. Okay, managing livestock. Some of this is, we've kind of actually started in on this, even though it did say irrigation and watering and systems up above. This one also has that. So I guess we're making progress into this, but it does bring up that vet care topic and animal care. There's also interest in guardian dogs. I don't know if those things are interesting to you.
Not me.
Not me, not Joe. Okay. What about mineral supplementation and nutritional topics?
I get that covered. I would say this thing that I put in chat definitely kind of falls under there.
Okay.
Concerns about Department of Health and getting involved with how we process our animal waste. Had you heard about that already?
No, well, I don't think so, Joe. I can't put, I'm on my phone as far as the link goes. So I haven't
Right.
dared to go and click it yet.
Yeah, no. And I didn't put a link there, so.
Okay.
But yeah, Kevin just asked Nicole to put it out to the committee, so it's out there, I'm sure, for you. That, I mean, Department of Health getting involved in how we process, store animal waste is just, I mean, are we gonna have to put a sack on their tail?
I'll have to look into it a little bit more. And
probably a top.
Go ahead. Still there? You got muted somehow.
Yeah, I'm guessing probably a topic for future discussions with this group and definitely with the Ag Committee as well.
Well, animal manure is incredibly valuable, and there's some education that's needed to outside partners too. That's something we should keep in mind, because I just learned, there's really interesting, not that we have a lot of vegetable seed production, but livestock manure is really closely, applications are really closely related to suppressing fusarium levels for vegetable seed production. There's been work out at WSU at Mount Vernon on that. We were just talking about it yesterday. So, we have to look at these things as, responsible use, highly valuable resources, not something that's like, so anyway, I'll be interested to take a look at that link, Jill. Thanks for that.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of the feedlot operations in the Midwest that are because of the price of nitrogen right now, the demand for those is through the roof. It looks like they're calling us back.
We got a little ways into it, not too far.
Okay, I'm back.
Just FYI, you guys, I'm turning your volume back up so you can hear you again. Feel free to keep talking.
Chris, do an email. I'd love to get some of your topics.
I'm hearing a lot of noise from the people. Are we in a breakout room still, or is this done?
We're
I hope everyone's staying free.
wrapping up the breakout groups. Yeah, we're gonna report out to the large group. Sorry for the sharp cutoff there.
It's
All right, thank you all for this discussion. discussion. We're gonna take just a few minutes and go around each table and compare if you have any feedback, new ideas, things somebody should cross off the list, what have you. Before I do that though, I forgot to mention earlier that there are bathrooms down the hall. This might be important. Down up through that metal gate on the left are the bathrooms, and there's a code 2862. The code is written on a sheet of paper as you walk out the door right there. So just if you need to use the restrooms, there's the code. That's where to go. Maybe that might be important as we go on throughout the day. All right, so why don't we start? I'm just going to go from table to table. You want to share anything, any feedback or any insights or ideas you had about these questions? What? Nothing dramatic. But this generally, do you feel like some of these comments were appropriate and reflect on some of your needs?
Barrier to entry to farmers or land.
Can you say the beginning of that again?
Barrier to entry.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You might put a chair next to the speaker and people could sit next to the speaker and talk to the group from there. The mic.
That might take some time, but I can repeat.
Speak really loud.
Speak loudly.
Or whisper it to me and I will.
We said barriers to entry for new farmers wanting to start operations and accessing land. Is that?
That's your mic.
That's right
Here. Yeah. So it's here,
So we can move this. Move the table out a little bit farther. Yeah. That table will. All right. Well,
I can turn the volume up on this too.
Thank you. This is our first hybrid option here, so we're learning as we go. All right, this is group right here. Have anything you want to highlight or share?
Yeah, we talked a lot about creative cover crops as different rich things. That was really interesting. And then we kind of expanded on a couple of points on there. We talked about equipment needs and emphasized the need for lining equipment and lining application as a barrier to pasture restoration for a lot of people. And drill seeders also as restoration equipment, and talked about the need for variety scales of equipment to meet different producers and scales of production. And then we also talked about the need for large animal vets again, and the idea of bringing a variety of vets in to speak to this group, make sure we compensate them so that we can get them to come here. And also that bringing them here helps remind them that there's a market for their skills and for that there are people raising livestock who need large animal vets. And so it's kind of a win-win. They get to know more people who might be clients, and we also get the benefit of getting more vets in the area and learning from them too. I guess I think those are the three things to talk about.
Okay.
Oh, we talked about site visits as an opportunity for hands-on learning too. We'll talk about learning today.
Yeah. Great, thank you. All right, this table, did you have any thoughts you wanted to share?
One thing that we thought to add to this list would be like a pocket-sized resource set, where it's like you're having an issue with this or that, you can just kind of flip through and then it gives you a list of resources of people to call. We tackle that issue.
Yeah, very easily accessible, not 20 pages long.
You're not searching the internet, trying to
Yeah.
find it or calling people, and just like trying to quick guide.
That's great. Excellent. All right, thank you. Okay, and was that it for you?
I mean, that equipment.
Yeah.
The usual.
Okay, great, thank you. How about this group?
So one thing that we talked about was where to access like local hay if you're looking for hay in your area. And working on VSP, which Kelly and I do for Lewis County, one of the things that we've talked about in the past is creating some kind of page or map where farmers who have hay available can post what they have available, you know, when it was cut, what size bales, and, you know, the price, and then people can look on there and see what's available in their area, and it's all in one place. When we talked in the past for VSP about, doing some kind of mapping system of who's near you and what do they have available from their farm. And we like the idea of having it where producers could post it themselves and manage their own posting for their farm, which would be a lot easier than just having one person do all the postings and constantly getting calls, take this off, add this, my number's wrong. And it would be a lot easier to have it managed that way.
Great. We need to, that's come up in previous discussions about having kind of a local online hub or one-stop shopping for different resources. So there's a place to go to find that information. And there may be that the Southwest Washington Grazing Association could be that hub, like through a website, or, we have the Facebook page, but there may be some opportunity to pull together some of the ideas and resources from the districts, from WSU, from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, from the different agencies all in one place as well. So there's so much out there, and from the producers directly, like you're saying, that's probably the most effective there to get the information direct. Okay, group online, do you have anything you want to share?
Joe, Carissa, or Rocky, do you want to share it out? I can if you don't. Okay. So the need for some equipment was brought up as well in this group to kind of emphasize that, although it's been said. There was interest, if I can recall, there's an interesting bill coming up with manure management. That was of interest to folks. I think it's a Department of Health bill. Joe just listed it in the chat. We can keep an eye on it. And then Roxy added a really good point for the upcoming infrastructure in terms of water and fencing workshop that she would be real interested in. I bet others would, in getting an overview of if you have a water right, sort of what you should know about it, how to use it, how to maintain it. And that has come up a lot in the past, but I don't think it really came up in our most recent summary of topics. So that was kind of a novel addition that could dovetail well with that May workshop. And then we talked for a little while and there's some echo. So that's as far as we got.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, this was just basically an exercise for us to get your thoughts and feedback on, what had been discussed previously and see what was missing. Again, to reiterate, we're going to be taking this information, this feedback, these ideas, and turning them into outreach events, to on-site demonstrations, to farm walks, farm tours, to webinars and online resources, etc. So all this information you'll see in a little bit later this morning, kind of some of the events and activities that we're planning based on what y'all said is going to be important and helpful. So thank you for giving that feedback and for talking through some of these. I think now we might just take a 2 or 3 minute break as we transfer to our presenters. Going to take a minute to set that up. So thank you. Let's take a minute and stretch and run to the restroom. All right. So, We'll start the presentations at 9:50.
Okay, you could mute your side for a little bit, and then if we wanted to chat, we could over here. Hey, Carissa, are you still close to the phone?
Hi, I'm here. Hold on.
You're in the barn.
Hey, hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. I hear your sheep.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear your sheep.
Okay, so I'm having a hard time with the speaker and I don't know, but can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. Perfect.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. was there anything you wanted to add? We lost you there for a little bit in the last session.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that, yeah, the tractor thing, and the availability for like postal diggers. I like the idea about having more infrastructure around like figuring out what kind of fencing is good for people. So like, I don't know. I don't know. That seems like what I can think of for now.
No, that's cool. In May, we're hoping for that fencing. In May, we're hoping for the fencing and irrigation equipment, kind of pasture walk. And so we're actually looking for a good place for that. We're thinking of getting together. One idea, I don't know if you know Flying Cow Creamery around Rochester, but they have pretty nice grass pasture management equipment, fencing, layout. So we're kind of
cool. Yeah, that would be really fun. Yeah. Sorry, for some reason the speaker is like so quiet on my phone. I'm having a hard time hearing. But yeah, I think that sounds good. I feel like there's so much there that has already been like brought up and covered. And yeah, I really like the vet, like the classes for like yeah, like the other day, I mean, granted, I probably just need a new vet, but my sheep, you know, and we've only had sheep for just over a year. And my sheep had like a mite that was like a pretty like classic thing that's pretty common, but my vet told me to do, and they're like supposed to be a livestock vet, but they told me it was like to do like an antifungal bath on my sheep twice a week. And I was like, I can't do that. It's like, that's crazy. And it turns out it was like not even a fungus, it was a mite that's super common. And it just feels like it'd be really cool to like, I don't know, even if it's like an online course or something that people could like sign up for like ruminant specific kind of like, I don't know, med stuff. I know that's happened in the past, but I haven't seen anything like that lately.
No, I'm really eager to get back to that. We had a really fun 6-week session about 2 or 3 years ago and brought up this vet that a livestock producer recommended from Portland area. This guy, Joe Snyder, works with OSU also. But that was a really fun class, and we formed some pretty cool relationships out of it too. And it's just a place to ask those questions too, like, hey, this, you know, who are you using as your vet, or like, what, you know, did anybody else have this mite issue? So
yeah, I think I knew somebody took that class and it seemed like it was really helpful. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that again. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, I think that's like the main thing I can think of for now. I think one thing, it's funny because Sarah Hammond, I just started working with the Eco Studies Institute, and Sarah and Melissa work there. Are we at a breakout group now?
We might
What's
be.
happening? Huh?
They might be joining back in together.
Okay.
I'll chat to you later about it. I'll talk to you later about it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I first understand that.
So,
And the second presenter has even bigger challenges, so we'll talk about that. So, our idea for bringing folks to talk today was to look at some of the other regional meat producers cooperatives in Western Washington and see, well, at least learn from their experiences, see what they've managed to accomplish for their growers and what challenges they've had. So we reached out to the Island Grown Farmers Cooperative and the North Cascades Meat Producers Cooperative, both of which have developed local slaughter units and have labeling stuff. So this seemed like it would be relevant for our conversations. Island Grown was just slammed with work right now, and they weren't able to come talk. But Yvonne Rainierson from the Northwest Agricultural Business Center is here, and she's worked with both of those cooperatives. She's going to talk to us a little bit about, in more general terms, what those cooperatives can provide and what the processes are setting up. We also have Nancy Giddings from the North Cascades Meat Producers Cooperative. She was not able to come in person, so she was going to Zoom in and up where she is, she's having a lot of connectivity difficulties this morning. So I'm gonna call her on the phone, and we're gonna plug the phone into the microphone. We're gonna see if we can MacGyver this somehow. But we'll start with Yvonne, because Yvonne's here, and you can all hear her and see her. You have a PowerPoint.
Yeah, I have a
screen share.
PowerPoint, a little slide. So I'm Yvonne, I work with the Northwest Agriculture Business Center. I'm a project manager and we're a nonprofit. Throughout the Puget Sound region, we help producers individually. We help write like business plans, marketing plans, stuff like that. We write a lot of grants for folks and just do a lot of general kind of organizational support work.
Yvonne, I'm gonna ask if you can stand here.
Yeah, totally.
People can hear you better.
Can
and
I
we might
click?
be able to see you.
Will you clickety click my thing?
I will definitely do the clicky clicks.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit. Oh, sorry. So we do work with producers individually. We're also a rural cooperative development center, so we help develop cooperatives. We work a lot with either meat producers and also like food hubs and different types of like agricultural producer cooperatives. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about different types of cooperatives and also a couple of organizations. I spoke to Stephen a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about some different kind of cooperative formats and structures and some other kinds of organizations. I'm also like really nervous. So we can start with the first slide if you want, or the next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what a cooperative is. Does everybody know? Do you want me to go into a little bit more detail about what it is? So a cooperative is a member-owned organization. It can be organized as a nonprofit, it can be organized as a for-profit, like LLC, different types of corporations. But in general, it's owned in common by members. You buy into a membership, and so what it is it's one member equals one vote, and those will collectively steer the organization. Okay, owned in common for a common good, common need. So it's usually organized around a group of producers' needs. So it can be a service provider, a marketing cooperative, a lot of different types of service cooperatives and things like that. Part of the structure is that there's also an investment and patronage model. So when you buy into the organization and you share that risk, you can also share the benefit of it. So after the cooperative has really been established and is making a profit, based on how much a member uses it, then they usually get a patronage or a return back at the end of the year based on how much they use the organization. So like electrical cooperatives and REI is a good example of that. So if you like buy a lot of stuff from REI every year and then they make a profit, you will get a percentage based on how much you use that organization. So just like a meat producer cooperative, you know, you're slaughtering 100 heads versus 1 head, you're going to have 100 units of return back on that investment when the organization is successful enough to be running a profit beyond their own reserves. That makes sense. Yeah, and then it's also ordinarily managed by a board of directors. So whether it's a corporation or not, they'll still have a board of directors. Depending on their bylaws, they will determine how many people on the board need to be producers themselves or members themselves. So it's good to have like an accountant on your board and that kind of stuff, but ordinarily they're steered by producers for producers. It still goes back to one member, one vote. So the board will steer the organization, but the members still vote every year on like, you know, big decisions, changing the bylaws, moving into a new enterprise and stuff like that. And what's nice about the one member, one vote is that it's very equitable, right? So if you own 10,000 acres and you're producing $3 million a year, you get one vote. Just like the person who's a beginning farmer who's doing a half acre market garden and does, you know, has an off-farm job. One member, one vote. Everybody's equitable, and everybody's vote counts the same. The next slide. Yeah.
But are you okay if we interrupt with questions?
Oh, you can. Yeah. I have some space at the end for questions? Maybe before I go into the individual kinds of cooperatives. Is that cool? If anybody has any questions. Anybody? I can get questions.
So any organization or any cooperative, whether it's a worker cooperative, a housing cooperative, a food cooperative, or a meat producers cooperative, they all are organized by the same types of 7 principles. So again, voluntary open membership, very democratic, trying to be equitable. What's really important is number 6. And so everybody follows the same types of principles, but 6 is really important because when you have kind of a model, an organizational culture and structure that is designed around equity and inclusion and working cooperatively with one another, it's nice when you get to be a size, you will end up, cooperatives tend to then want to work with other cooperatives. So we see that a lot with food hubs and distribution cooperatives, because they're trying to not cannibalize on each other's markets. Where it's like individual for-profit entities will be like, I want to outcompete this person, I want to make the most money, I want to sell the most stuff. Cooperatives tend to look at each other and say, oh, you're doing this already. Like, can we help? Can we do something with you? No, okay, we're going to go and fill in this other space where this need is there. So they try to not outcompete each other. Sometimes they'll end up even developing a cooperative for their cooperatives. You know, grocery cooperatives and stuff tend to do that, or maybe a grain cooperative and a meat producers cooperative merge, and then they end up working together. It's pretty cool. Instead of trying to outcompete each other, like colonizing the market. We can go to the next one.
What does conservative community do?
Yeah, so, you know, in general, cooperatives are led by the people within it, and they're usually around producers or people who are trying to work, you know, collectively and equitably with one another. So usually that mission is also designed around, you know, environmental activism or just general concern for the community. And they're generally concerned for each other. So a lot of cooperatives are also revolved around like community education, like for themselves and their industry and advocacy for their industry, but also connecting with their community members or their buyers or their producers or whatever that looks like. So in general, kind of cooperative model engages more community partnership.
I have an answer to that. So it needs a lot of talk like that.
Yes.
So I belong to Organic Valley, which is kind of the world's best.
I know we're going to talk about it a little bit.
We take a percentage of our profits and give it back. And if there's a natural disaster somewhere, we actually have buses that will take food and care of those areas. And of course, the bus has our name on the side, so you just average that, you know, if we have product that goes short, I would actually donate that at food banks. Just general donations in the communities where a lot of our rural communities where the farmers live and support them. It's a percentage of our profits.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I think that's it's generally like in the nature of a cooperative to want to work equitably with the community to just kind of build up more community resilience, which is pretty cool. There's other, like, you know, some of them like Puget Sound works with the VP Washington Works program, and like a lot of people are working towards like equity for the BIPOC community and like advocacy work and stuff like that. So okay, we can do the next one. So I was going to talk a little bit about the regional cooperatives just based on structure. Nancy's going to speak for herself with Ncmpc, but I work pretty closely with these folks in Igfc, and we're also going to talk about some structures for some other ones. What I want to say about cooperatives is when you talk about it, you feel like, oh my God, this will feel good. And like everybody, you know, everybody's going to get along and it's going to be super great. There are some difficulties in it, right? It's business that needs to be run generally to make money and pay its staff. And like, when you have ideas that are enterprises and services you want for your particular community, they cost money, right? So within a capitalist society. So getting together, say 70 people in a room and like, how are we going to steer this organization? You can have 70 opinions about how that's gonna go. It can get pretty spicy sometimes, you know? So, you know, just working collaboratively can be its own challenge. There's a lot of benefits to cooperatives, but it can be hard. And bringing something into its own self-sufficiency can be additionally difficult when you're working with producers who work way more hours than the average person, right? And because it's generally begun as a volunteer-led organization, it can be tough. You know, it's a commitment to doing this work, and, you know, so just having like realistic expectations when they go into it. Any questions about like cooperative structure or funding stuff? Cool. So I'm going to talk about 2 meat producer cooperatives, and then I'm also going to mention the Puget Sound Food Hub a little bit because they offer a very particular type of cooperative design and then a couple other ones. And I'm also gonna give honorable mention to a couple other nonprofit organizations, like similar to yours, that are doing really good work for the meat producer community, that are offering services and that don't necessarily have to be a cooperative, but it's just kind of a cool model. So again, just going to speak a little bit about Ncmpc. It's founded in 2016. They do have a mobile slaughter unit. It's USDA inspected. They have been having their processing overseen by just a private for-profit industry. They were going to buy a facility and just all of the regulations around MPUs and like meat processing in general. They found that this is the best model. They are transitioning into a new space, which is super exciting. Developing like a mobile processing or a value-added processing truck and doing a bunch of cool stuff. We just hired 2 staff members. So they offer cut and wrap services. They do beef, hogs, goats, and sheep. They do both USDA and custom exempt. And they also want to offer a branded meat program that was sold to the Puget Sound Food Hub into PCC, which is another cooperative. But they're pausing on that now until they move into their next phase.
So why are they pausing on that?
Because there was some concerns around there was just some concerns around the quality of the processing done at the secondary facility. That was not under NCMP's control, so they have a pretty high standard for their meat products, and so decided for the meantime to pause that. So until they could oversee that, so their product could adhere to the same like quality standards and like packaging and branding standards that they really saw for their organization, as it was a group decision.
So, but they are operating cut and wrap services now.
Yep, so they do slaughter and then cut and wrap, but they don't do the branded meat program. So right now it's direct to consumer sales where the producers bring in their animals, they slaughter, cut and wrap to their specs, and then they take that meat to their own, wherever that meat goes. What they were doing in addition to that was buying in carcasses and developing a branded meat program. And so it was like, you know, like chubs of beef and like different cuts and stuff like that. And those were, yeah, the production planning, it was a lot of work and it was a great product, but then it got a little, it like ended up deteriorating in quality a little bit. Not in the meat, but like, you know, the cuts were a little ragged, blah, blah, blah. So they just chose to pause it for now. They are moving into their own space. They just rented a dairy. So we can talk about, I mean, I can talk about this stuff all day long. So you know, whatever you guys want to talk about, we can talk about. I can talk about the new space they're going into. It's a retired dairy and everything that's going into that, which is pretty cool.
So is that for the cut and wrap services?
They're going to, so it's really unique. So what they're doing, and maybe Nancy will be able to answer some of these questions too, but should I let Nancy answer them? Well, I can help, and yeah, we can bring that background. I don't want to speak too much for them. She's the board president. She's been doing this for a long time. She's super rad. So we can talk about the next one, which is IGFC. So the Island Grown Farmers Cooperative, they started on San Juan Island as part of the conservation district, I believe, and like back in the 90s. And then they formed as a cooperative in 2000, and then 2002, they bought, or really constructed an MPU. It was the first MPU that was USDA inspected, mobile processing unit, sorry. It was USDA inspected, I believe, in the country, if not one of the first. It's a really cool design. It was really innovative at the time. It's become more common, right, in the Puget Sound and like Washington State, kind of Pacific Northwest region. But in the rest of the country, it's not very common. They're pretty expensive to build and buy and operate and things like that. And people kind of traditionally focus on like brick and mortar buildings, but it's just a really cool design. They developed it initially because the San Juan Islands are obviously landlocked and have a really hard time accessing processing, and like dragging your animals across on the ferry is stressful, and just like everything is like canceled when you get your like sheep on a ferry. You know, it's pretty chaotic. And they also wanted to have, as part of like a place-based marketing strategy, to have animals that are born like they live their full lives on the islands. And so it was a pretty big deal. They never leave the islands. They're born there, they die there, they're processed there, and then they kill the restaurants there and feed their community. It's a pretty big deal. However, it was pretty hard for them to access land, and they still needed to travel to the other islands. So they were working out of a facility in Skagit County, a small facility, operating their MPU, and they actually bring it out on a ferry to the different islands. And they work at remote locations on Lopez, San Juan, and Orcas. And they go to a farm and they deal with the wastewater there. It's all approved. They have to have like all of this, like a ton of regulations, right?
drive it out, process those animals, and then drive them back to their facility in cotton wrap. And the island folks now have to come off island to pick up their meat, which is still like pretty cumbersome. Trying to develop strategies to like fix that. But right now they can only do so much cut and wrap on the truck itself. They recently developed an agreement with the Port of Skagit, so they just moved into this beautiful, beautiful new facility. It has these huge hanging coolers with these gorgeous rails and all of these different systems. They've got like this $100,000 patty maker, and it's like the schmanciest, the schmanciest thing you've ever seen. They just were awarded a grant, so they're going to be putting their kill floor in 2023. They're building it now. They're currently only using the MPU for it's their only like slaughter actual facility, but then they have a brick and mortar cut and wrap facility. Yeah.
In terms of scale, we're looking at our scale right now. How much bigger is IGFC in terms of the number of growers, the amount of animals that they're processing? Is that, like, so far beyond our reach because they're in a different scale, or is this something that seems feasible?
It's feasible, but I mean, they did start 22 years ago. So, you know, Ncmpc started in 2016, and they're much smaller and a little scrappier. You know, they're still building up their infrastructure. IGFC has this almost the exact same production, like annual production of PSP, of pediatric sound processing. They do about 1,200 animals a year. Would like to increase. They do like 2 to 3 slaughter days a week. If they got the kill floor, they'd be able to increase. They only run one shift right now. They'd like to run 2. About 12 staff members. They'd like to run more. It's expensive. It's an expensive operation. Meat processing is just about the most expensive operation you can build for producers, right? There's tons of regulation. And then, you know, additionally, I work with the Northwest Meat Processors Association. We're building out their apprenticeship training program because finding even butchers and meat cutters to operate this facility is really tough. For Ncmpc, we just brought in a journey person butcher. We moved him up from Ohio. I mean, it's just nobody in the area who has these skills. It's a highly technical skill that has not been like well supported in the meat cutting industry, right? It's kind of transitioned more into Tyson and like really low wage workers, very mechanized. But for, you know, people serving this particular need, it's tough to find those folks. It's very it's in high cost of living in the state. Blah blah blah. It's tough.
So
is it accessible? Maybe. Yeah.
With the new kill floor in 2023, are they going to continue or not continue with the MPU?
They're going to continue with the MPU, and so it's going to be able to go to the islands more actually. So because the ferry system is like kind of crumbling, they're not even able to go to some of the islands anymore, like Lopez. It's only 2 ferries a day. You can't get a USDA inspector stuck there. They like won't allow it. Everybody, yeah, it's the whole thing. I mean, like everything's falling apart. Yeah, it's a bummer, and like people are really upset. There was like when the ferry system decided to like reduce their hours because of labor shortages and things like that, they ended up having, oh, what was it? I don't remember. Like a 5-figure head count that we're not going to be processing meat, right? So like and lambs, like these are sheep now. You know what I mean? Like these are not animals anymore. They are something else. So it's pretty tough. People freaked out, and also the islands are that much more expensive for grain, that much more expensive for fuel, that much more expensive for labor, that much more expensive for housing. So it's definitely a need. So with the kill floor, they'll be able to go like send it out there more frequently, because otherwise they don't have a slaughter facility, you know, when it goes to the islands and it's not in Skagit. As far as like starting a facility, I'm working with a group of halal meat producers who are looking to start maybe a meat producers cooperative, and it's a process. It's going to be many years. We're starting out with a small USDA inspected facility at one farm who's going to offer services to other people who've had to do it under the table because they can't access halal compliant slaughter, the compliant slaughter. We're looking to build that up, but it's going to take us a couple of years to even have a mobile processing unit, the right like wastewater treatment, the HACCP plan, the staffing. So, yeah.
Other questions on IGFC?
So I can talk briefly. I don't want to like chew up too much of your time. Yeah.
What's the difference between their farmers co-op and their ag?
Their farmers co-op and their and what?
The agricultural.
The agricultural guild, the San Juan Islands Ag Guild. So the San Juan Ag Guild is a nonprofit, and they are like a 501c3 community advocacy organization that helps support other small island projects that could not necessarily be their own entity. So Ncmpc is actually the fiscal sponsor of the Ag Guild, and then the Ag Guild is fiscal sponsor for other people, or like it passes through those monies. Write a lot of grants and oversee a lot of upcoming projects. A cooperative, you can be a Ncmpc is a 501c3 nonprofit. Igfc, I believe, is a corporation. So you can be either in this state, but it's really about there's not much difference between ownership and steering. They both have boards. They both make money.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
There's another group that we're going to talk about a little bit, which is a 501c5 agricultural advocacy group, which is pretty cool. The San Juan Island Agricultural Resource Center, another group of like another nonprofit, but it's all volunteer led. So there's lots of different ways that folks can organize to do cool work. Yeah, I'm just going to talk quickly about a couple other types of cooperatives, right? So there's a lot of different types of cooperatives, but even within the producer cooperatives, the Puget Sound, so like Ncmpc is North Cascades Meat Producers Cooperative, is a meat producers cooperative that provides slaughter services, but they also do marketing and branding services. IGFC does exclusively services. And Puget Sound is an aggregation and distribution cooperative that accesses wholesale markets. So they have an online platform where people order that food that producers put on that, and it puts together a weekly catalog, an availability list. And at their site, they aggregate all of that food and then distribute it through 14 counties that somebody wouldn't ordinarily be able to do on their own, right? So it's a really interesting model, this aggregation and distribution services cooperative. Started in 2010. They're looking at, it's a typo, it's gonna be 13 million next year. It's a pretty big deal. They're one of the biggest in the region. Really great group of folks. We can click through if you want. Another type is a retail, it's like a place-based marketing cooperative. So the San Juan Island Food Hub and the Whidbey Island Grown Cooperative, they're both about the same age, the same size. They're place-based marketing. So it's around like what specifically their producers are growing in their space, and that's the value proposition that they market and advertise. They do have a retail store, the similar kind of like aggregation and distribution model, but their primary focus is on promoting the brands of these spaces. What's pretty cool is that these two cooperatives work really well with Puget Sound Food Hub, and that principle sticks to not outcompete one another. So Puget Sound actually delivers to their regions, but they'll call them and say like, hey, we're going to do this. Like, what are you guys doing? What are you up to? Like, we don't want to take over your market. We don't want to outcompete you. Can we share logistics services? Can we share a truck? Can we share a person? Can we share an HR coordinator? It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool coordination of services. We can click through. And the last one is Organic Valley, because I'm from Wisconsin originally. Who doesn't love Organic Valley? Just a really successful cooperative model. They have a pool cooperative, which pools those resources. It's a branded program, but they don't do any private labels or anything like that. They're also doing some beef, pork, and produce. They did 1.2 billion in sales last year, which is pretty rad. And because of their collective bargaining, they were able to, through the pandemic, stabilize prices and improve financial standing and stuff like that. They also provide a lot of services that people wouldn't ordinarily be able to access. A good portion of their producers are Amish and Mennonite folks, which is pretty rad.
Maynard, do you want to say anything else that's
Yeah.
relevant to the group, Organic Valley?
So I said earlier, like, I'm a owner patronage. They made profits last year, so we got a big huge dividend. We used to call it like a 13 check, like that, was like a Christmas present. So they took like half of their profit and gave it back to the farmers. But that's also been in our bylaws that they have to take it to us. So they're really cool because we have like 3 on staff veterinarians and agronomists, some animal welfare people. All those people are resources that you can call. Like I can call that on the phone when you get ideas or the animal welfare. It's just really cool. Cooperative work for. We actually have a lot of people who have higher paying jobs to work for us. The hardest part of this whole COVID thing has been getting transportation and processing, and now a bunch of plants. You guys have heard, but a bunch of plants are getting cyber attacked. So say you have a production facility, you get cyber attacked, nothing goes in and nothing goes out. So this could shut down like a chain was food. So this company, HB, they're gonna and they didn't take any conventional or organic milk in there for a week. They got like 15 plants across the United States. So these cyber taxes are somehow, I don't know why you have Fiji.
Well, it's a good place, you know, if you're like trying to destroy what we have. Yeah, it's just a really excellent model. So the last three, this is kind of the last slide, and then I can answer some questions. It's just acknowledging that there's some other really good organizations out there doing some rad stuff that are not necessarily cooperatives. So again, the Northwest Meat Processors Association based in this county, but they provide services to the tri-state region. And so they have a really great conference every year. They do like workforce development stuff with their apprenticeship training program. And then they also do like, you know, what is the word? Networking opportunities and just different like career building opportunities, which is pretty cool. San Juan Island Agricultural Resource Center, their mission is to really promote the needs of San Juan Island producers to policymakers. So they couldn't be a formal 501c3 because they do some like weird type of lobbying. It's just kind of a rad organization. They do a lot of communication, like advocacy and communication for the producers and the needs of the industry for policymakers who may not be in the fields every day. The Adirondack Grazers Associate or Cooperative is cool because it started as a grazing association, and then they went into a nonprofit model, and now we're a formal cooperative. They do marketing, branding, and they do aggregation and distribution, and they've built that over a long period of time. They really kept growing and evolving and deciding what they really wanted to do, and finally came on a cooperative model, which worked out for them. They're doing great. And then the Grass-Fed Exchange is similar to the Northwest Meat Processors Association, another volunteer-led nonprofit that does similar stuff where it's around advocacy, networking opportunities. They have a full conference too, branding and promotion advocacy for that, for grass-fed meat and products and milk brand. So some
Thank
models,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Well, our hope here was to kind of canvas the different options and present that to everyone here so that you guys can make a decision of what you want to create, what services you need for yourselves. And anybody have questions about any of those models that
yeah.
on? Jesse?
It's more of terminology. So are you finding there are differences in the practices between the members of the Grazers Cooperative and the might not necessarily specify that grazing is the means by which this means.
Yeah, you know, it's up to any individual organization. What do I find? You know, it's interesting. So like, it's really about whatever the organizational culture is. So like IGSC has a particular brand, a particular way they operate their organization, their preference of working with people. Ncmpc feels very strongly that providing services to the smallest of the small producers is super important to them. So they do a lot of internal gymnastics to meet those needs. A lot of scheduling gymnastics and a lot of like much lower fees, just a little scrappier because they really, it's part of their value system. With the Puget Sound Food Hub, they had to go through the process of engaging their members and their board and say, like, what are our standards of quality? So they like, are they going to have a Canadian certification requirement? If they do, like, is that a timeline? Are they going to have to, you know? So again, Organic Valley is organic, and that was the decision they made. So it's really up to any organization to define whatever it is they want to do, and they can't. I mean, it's a group of people to do whatever they want.
So again, in terms of the life cycle of the critters, we've got the part in which they are grown and the part in which they make their trip to the hall. So, right, so there's a different, so the organizations in their formation.
Yeah.
Privilege is the wrong word, but forefront, one of those, because of that's where they're going, because we formed as a Grazers Association.
Yeah.
As not a meat producers association, though that is what we produce. Right. Some people do more than others.
Yeah, so Organic Valley has different pools. So crop is an including regional organic. crop is called is the wet organics valley so our really reaching our organic producers.
And would you shop enough that I can get here?
Yeah, but we have pools within there, so we have a dairy pool, we have an egg pool, we have a vegetable pool, pork pool, beef pool. And within our dairy pool, below dairy pool, we have its own grass mill. It's our patented, okay, follows the American Grass Fed Association rule. Those cows can't have any grain from the day they're born. They have milk that's produced, they can have grain crop, but it has to be harvested before grain form. Interesting. There's certain rules. So those are all these things there's within this giant co-op are these pools you can form. And then you can have sub-regions under those pools. So it's like the Grain Growers Association over in Chicago, the small southwest portion of the Growers Association. They actually took the Organic Valley bylaws and used those as their. A lot of people are taking Organic Valley bylaws because the bylaws are written in specific ways to benefit farmers and not benefit other people. Like they can't take that money. So they're taking this. So the grain growers, all the people that grow chickens or grow that, if you want to join a really good group that hopefully is going to be growing and processing one day, join the Southwest Ocean Grain. Is that the name of it? Grain Growers Co-op?
Oh, I was still.
There's hope to eventually fix the processing.
Yeah, and I think, exactly, you can establish any standards you want in your bylaws. It can be like just for BIPOC folks. It can be just for, this is the only thing we're gonna do, whatever you want to do. But developing the potential, the feasibility of a halal meat producers cooperative, like they have to define even what halal and Zabita means for that.
And you're muted here. Oh, no.
It's only going to be processed in a place without pork because some people can make those determinations for themselves, but this particular group.
Okay, that's fine.
Right, like what their standards, what their
I'd
brand
like
is,
to, I would mute it.
comply with it, right? Because it has to follow through into your
Oh,
board handbook, and your like training program for your staff, and like everything, a marketing plan. Like how are we going to market this thing, and what language are we going to use that collectively communicates like the work that
Sit down.
Oh, it's a good question.
Joe's got a question on the computer here. Joe, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, I'd like to say great presentation. One big thing I pulled out of that is 40% more demand than you have capacity for in the one facility. I would ask, and maybe it's for Sarah and Stephen, Commissioner Mejia here in Thurston County commented Tuesday that she attended a meeting Monday night in regards to the ongoing attempts at a USDA facility regionally. Do you have an update on that?
Well, we had a meeting with Stephen. It was yeah, maybe you want to speak to that, Sarah?
Let's let Stephen, because I was not.
Oh, yeah, you were there.
Yeah.
She said all of the other meetings.
Yvonne, you were there too, and it just might be easier. I can do it, but it might be easier with you there in person.
Yeah, well, all I can say is it wasn't specifically for a processing facility. And so it's really just a regional evaluation of the needs of meat producers and meat processors and ways that we can service them, right? Because the industry is bottlenecked in like a half a dozen different ways. So is it like staffing? Is it a processing facility? Because the answer isn't always a processing facility. The answer could be more staff for that processing facility to run a second shift. Like processing facilities are multi-millions of dollars, waste a lot of product, or have a lot of waste product, right? Offal and wastewater, and how you're going to navigate that. So I would say that the study wasn't. It's about like a needs assessment of the Tri-County region.
Yeah, and I would just add that as a high level note that Pierce County has set aside $35,000, and there's a real convincing pathway, or I don't know, it looks assured that we'll get $35,000 set aside from Thurston County to help with that assessment. And it grew out of this idea of how many livestock and producers would really be necessary to justify an expanded or a new USDA facility, or should existing capacity or capacity at existing facilities be the focus. And so I think once this gets on the ground, the idea is to hire a consultant similar to the study that was generated for the Methow Conservancy, looking at ways to expand infrastructure capacity. in the region to better serve folks because of all these long waits for processing times and dates. But it's not just going to focus on, to my knowledge, on the infrastructure, but also supporting issues as well. You know, the labor and the training and any other obstacles that may be getting in people's way. So.
Yeah, and I would maybe add that I think it'll help inform policy maybe in the future, because I think it's difficult with people who are like nonprofit or government entities, public entities, owning some of that equipment, right? So like evaluating the needs of the community and then having them own it isn't always, it can be a good solution, but it's hard to know who's gonna own it, who's gonna run it, who's gonna staff it, who's gonna hose it down when it's done. You know what I mean? Like those types of things, who's gonna collect those fees? What does that look like? You know, the Pierce County Conservation District has an MPU and PSP rents it. And so, you know, it's like, what is the service that's needed in the area? And maybe what ends up being needed is more capacity building grants. I'm going to supply for those, the WSDA one, but more of those for sure. You know, they had like $27 million in ask and only $3 million to fund. I mean, there's a lot of money out there that could be used for full processing facilities that are privately or cooperatively owned.
And I would just add too that, you know, this is definitely this study is a regional look. So while there's money coming for this study from Pierce for sure, likely from Thurston, you know, it's on the radar of the Lewis County commissioners as well. And the intent is to look at a broader South Puget Sound, you know, part of Southwest Washington kind of region, and not just focus on, you know, any particular county specifically, but to look at this as an area, because, you know, products that might come out of this or needs that might arise might be regional infrastructure.
Anybody who slaughters their animals knows that you will go out of county. I mean, PSP processes animals from 14 counties. I mean, it's bonkers, and out of state. So, you know, it's yeah, evergreen need.
Was there a comment there, Peter? Well, I want to make sure we get Nancy here. I have Nancy on the phone. Nancy is the president of the North Cascades Meat Producers Association. She is a producer, and I thought it was important to hear from farmers. Nancy, we're gonna see what we can do here. Bear with us.
And maybe if you are on the computer and you don't have a question, if you can stay on mute so we can make sure we can hear Nancy. Yeah, we'll have to mute our computer. I think you're gonna plug the phone in.
Hi, Nancy here. Are you able to hear me? Oh, okay. As it has been said, I am with North Cascades Meat Producers Cooperative. I joined because of the marketing arm that was not being offered at the time by Igfc. I am also a longtime member of Igfc. Dual membership. At any rate, we are very small. We have been contracting out our slaughter and our cut and wrap, and are moving toward doing all of that ourselves because of inconsistent quality controls. And we feel we can do a better job of safeguarding humane handling and that sort of thing. We are a nonprofit. We are totally member. I'm going to try something. I'm sorry. There's a lot of interference. Are you hearing it too? Oh, okay. I just thought suddenly it's making its noise all by itself. At any rate, as I said, we are a nonprofit. We are totally producer member run. We do accept members that are non-producers, but they can't vote. They can invest their money, but they can't vote. And that was on purpose, obviously. We do cater to the little guy. We have had farmers start out with 2 head of cattle or cattle equivalents, and now are producing 5 to 15 cattle or cattle equivalents a month, I'm talking about. And so I think the growth potential for the very small farmer is fantastic. And we are working hard to grow, to give opportunity to that growth. We concentrate only on local distribution of local product. It has been a godsend to have that attitude through these last couple of years, which have been very tough for everybody. So at any rate, a lot has been said about us, and so I'll leave questions up to you now.
Nancy, you said you focus on small producers?
That's right. I said we do focus. I mean, we don't discriminate, but we do focus on small producers because they need a little bit more help to be self-sustaining. You can't pay for your farm if you're only raising a couple of cattle for.
What's the average size?
Oh, it's like I said, they're growing. Everybody's growing and increasing their capacity. So, and we have reached the absolute maximum we can with our contractor. So, again, we are branching out and doing our own thing. Average size, there is no average, because somebody who has moved home, and this is a lot of our farmers, either never left the farm or they've moved home and taken over. And so they're looking for ways to make it pay for itself, make the farm pay for itself, and give them some profit. USDA is the best way to maximize the potential profit. So at any rate, that's where the emphasis is at the moment.
There was a question on Zoom. What cooperative was Nancy representing? She is the president of the North Cascades Meat Producers Association, or Meat Producers Cooperative.
That's correct. Ncmpc for short.
With that awful feedback. Are there any questions in the group for North Cascades or for Nancy here?
What was the
Nancy's question is about the buy-in to the cooperative. What does that look like for members to join?
Okay, at the straight USDA level, it is $2,000 one-time fee, and it is like buying stock. You can sell your interest. You can sell or pass it along with the farm. Both of those things have happened. To add the marketing arm, it's an additional $500. We used to offer the WSDA level, but there are an awful lot of WSDA operations and not so many USDA. So our concentration has been for the last 4 years USDA. Not that we don't offer WSDA to members, but it's just the concentration is. Is somebody coming in with a question? Okay.
What's been the greatest benefit to your producers of the existence of the cooperative?
The greatest benefit has been the ability to sell CSA shares, to sell through the Puget Sound Food Hub, and to aggregate their meat into the branded label. Our branded label, North Cascade Meats, is grass-fed, grass-finished, no antibiotics, no chemical contaminants, no commercial fertilizers on the fields, and no weed killers, amongst other things. We are soon going to require everybody have grass-fed certification. I'm not trying to say that we wouldn't have a green finished product. If we had enough farmers that wanted to aggregate that into a label, we would offer that. Our hog farmers and our sheep farmers are doing just fine without aggregating into a common label at the moment, but that's always been an option. Occasionally we have meetings of those groups just to make sure they aren't feeling stressed and want to develop a label.
Great, that was helpful. Thank you for that, Nancy. Yeah,
Do you want to ask Nancy if she talked about how they funded the MPU and like what that, like how they purchased big purchases?
yeah, so there's a great prompt from Ron. Can we talk about the inception of your mobile processing unit? What that cost and how you guys funded it? And what that process was.
Okay. We purchased the mobile processing unit, or ordered it in 2016 and accepted delivery about 4 months later. So that would have been about May of 2016. Its original cost was $225,000. Today, that same machine is going to cost $350,000 to $400,000. We've made countless upgrades. The manufacturer has learned a lot by with the use of our MPU and the other early ones in existence locally. It's a wonderful piece of equipment, and takes a lot of watchful maintenance. And but you know, like I say, it's well built, and we're very pleased with it. Did I? Go ahead.
Where did you get the funding for that initial?
Oh, the funding, yes. We got a loan. We did some fundraising and came up with down payment of about $125,000 and financed the rest with the help of the Whatcom County Foundation, Whatcom something or the foundation. And we got a grant to help us hire our first employee, our first 2 employees actually, what we called a general manager and an administrative assistant. And all along, we've probably contracted out to about 3 different processors, USDA processors in the area.
Oh, this question. Nancy, how much does the slaughter and cut and wrap cost in general members for a sheep or a hog? Follow-up question, what is the marketing program? What are the marketing programs that help with membership?
Okay, right at the moment, because of the structure, the slaughter is about is $205 per head of cattle equivalent. And then the cut and wrap is, with this contractor, about 95 cents per pound of hanging weight, plus 25 cents for the plastic bag, the cryo wrap bag. Going on our own, we expect to be able to lower the cost of slaughter and obviously eliminate the plastic bag charge. We will be composting the offal and obviously recycling that. And so it's eliminating any charge for elimination there. Right now, our people are paying, I think it's $5 extra per barrel, and each beef animal is accounts for 3 barrels. So that's a hefty extra charge on each animal that we are eliminating through our own processing.
Stephen, got a question. What grass-fed certification are you using or continuing using? And are you organizing pasture walks after your various cruises?
We do offer pasture walks by appointment, and we are looking at several different, I mean, when people know that you are interested in certification, then you start getting lots of emails. So we have a committee studying that.
It sounds like, do they have a mobile processing truck for slaughter? That's what we're talking about. And they've been contracting cotton wraps with other local USDA processors.
And the question is, you have a mobile slaughter truck, and then you're contracting cut and wrap to other local butchers?
No, we're not contracting with other, well, okay. We contract at this time with one establishment. And he has only been able to allow a certain amount of time to USDA because of his own robust WSDA business. He has been, because of time constraints, refusing to go to farms. So all of our slaughters are aggregated at a given location. And we want to be able to offer farmers the option of having our slaughter unit go to their farm. And we want to eliminate some of the extra charges that have come our way through this particular contract.
Does that answer your question there? Do you have a follow-up question? Go ahead, Sarah.
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not, yeah.
They do have a mobile processing unit. They do have a mobile filter.
Yes.
But it's not going to farms currently.
Is your truck currently going to farms, Nancy?
When we take it away, it does, yes. It's special arrangement. It's not as available as we would like it to be. Our contractor will only give us one slaughter day a week, and that has been our primary source of slaughtered animals. But like I say, our farmers can arrange with us to have a slaughter day in addition to that. It does create a little bit of a headache for those of us who are involved in making those arrangements, but we do, and that's another reason for us to do our own thing. We eliminate the, we just eliminate some of the constraints. Working with a floor.
Expand on the, ordinarily they do go to different sites, right? Sometimes like the PSP one is a building and now, so it's not practical, but it's pretty expensive. And a lot of the trucks, you need a CDL to drive them. So the new employee, they just hire past the CDL, he's also a attorney for sure. And so the intention is when they go to their own site, then they will be able to travel to sites. The Igfc one does. So the intention is to do that in the future, but because they've been having the services provided by another organization that's at the learning work facility that's already installed some nutrition, then they just. Yeah, so I don't know what.
Okay, so let me expand on that. Okay. So the concept of mobile, USDA expected mobile processing that goes to a farm and does 2 sheep, picks up, goes to another farm and does 3 beef, goes to another farm and picks up 1 pig. That doesn't work.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, and
Now, I think what Olive Grown does is they go to a farm, scheduled farm, okay, who has 3 beef. That guy's got a neighbor's got 2 pigs to bring the 2 pigs over. Another neighbor's got 4 sheep to bring the 4 sheep. So that mobile processing sets up one place for that day and does whatever it does. Now, the next day, it may go to some other place. Okay, sets up for one day and does the animals in that area. Is that basically how the island road works?
Yeah, or any mobile processing unit, the idea is that we have a one-off or a couple of animals that are aggregated at one site, because for the day, you only have the USDA for 48 hours. And so if you have people bring their animals to essentially located facilities, it can be advantageous because say, their mobile processing unit is currently, what will be relocated in Skagit, but maybe they have platform producers. So people who can only move 1 or 2 animals to a located facility and do that there, but they also have a place where people can aggregate at the dairy as well. So you can either bring your animals to dairy or they can go to another place if they're aggregated, or ideally really what it's the NPU is beneficial to it is a farmer that wants to process say 10 cattle a day. They go to those beef, so those beef are not having to be transported, dropped off the night before, fed and watered, and then processed in the slaughterhouse. That's really where it's ideal, where it reduces travel stress on the animal. And then, especially for like super rural communities like Western, like East Whatcom, which is like so.
So
Is that your question? Unless you want to expand on your question.
What's that?
We had that unit here and backlog was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the pig sound processing unit is at capacity. I don't know if anybody knows. Do we
Unit
know?
sound processing uses it, like unit that's owned by the,
Yeah.
here's coming.
But is it at capacity? Is it?
Well, currently, see, the thing is currently, just like Igfc, it's their only slaughter facility. And so if they move it, they could slaughter 5 days a week at site, or they could travel and do probably less animals off site. And then because it's not theirs, they had to do a bunch of modifications. So it's not like the most ideal setup for them.
No, but the question is, is it at capacity? The way it's operating right now, is it doing as many animals as it could possibly do?
No. Well, I mean, so like generally the standard for an 8-hour workday or 8 or 10-hour workday is 10 beef or 10 beef equivalent. And so based on their current staffing, I think PSP operates at like 3 days a week processing.
Turn right on Southeast Bishop Boulevard.
Really, they're back to the bottleneck.
On Southeast Bishop Boulevard towards Southeast Plumgard Street.
That's actually the biggest capacity. So it's not really the fault of the unit, it's because of the expensive infrastructure to install the coolers.
But ordinarily, like you fix one bottleneck, you're like, no, that's another one, you know what I mean? Now we're running stuff, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's always gonna be sort of bottleneck, but really you could be processing more on that unit.
So does that answer your question?
No, I'm just saying, when we had something similar to that, the wait times were ridiculous, and it was wait time with your animal beyond the time in which you.
Now you're
scheduled
like,
to be
before
there.
you're even born, you have to accelerate for them.
You mean on the day of the
Stay
slaughter,
longer.
you got there with your trailer and you had to wait a long time. Okay, our experience with PSP is we bring the animals in, we drop them off, they go into a pen, we drive away. I don't know if it's a half hour of us driving away or 2 hours. I'm driving away.
This was the mobile unit that was in Thurston County here, that was the start of a cooperative. Yeah. So it parked at, when I used it parked left foot. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that was
So.
currently, yeah, that's a long time. Yeah.
What's nice
They,
about
they,
what's nice about Ncmpc's new space is they have a mobile unit on site that will do that processing, but it's an old dairy, so they have pens. People actually drop off the night before, and that's more ideal. What happens at IGFC though is if the farm, the satellite farm that they're doing the processing at doesn't have sufficient pennies, you're gonna have to leave those animals in a trailer for many hours. It sucks, you know. It's not ideal. But it's
May-
good for them with design.
I want to thank Nancy here and
I would like to explain something. I'm sure that you all know a mobile slaughter.
today, which was to talk through the list of events that we have planned this year. And then we want to make sure that we stop talking with enough time that you guys can talk to each other if you want to before you got to get back to whatever else you have going on today. So Nancy, I want to say thank you so much, and thank you for putting up with our work.
Main Street for 1 month.
Is there a critical comment? Just because a couple of comments that other people have said throughout this, we're hearing these great presentations from Nancy, from Yvonne, really looking at, because this was a conversation that came up at the last Grazing Association meeting, is what are our needs and how do we best organize to solve those needs? What are the models out there that make the most sense for us in this community? Is it one of the varieties of styles of co-ops? Is it a less formal association? Is it a different type, of organization or networking experience, or shared resources pulling together? We talked a lot about marketing at the last one too. Is it pulling together for resources on that, or finding shared services where we can all come together and use the same one, shared vet idea, that conversation at this table. So this is to sort of get your brains thinking and jump starting about what do you envision for the future, and then how can service entities like us help support you in moving in that direction. I just want to make sure we close the loop on that. And Yvonne also has another really example.
In 1,000 feet, turn right onto North Grand Avenue.
Well, we were talking about one of the things that what is the prairie?
Yeah, one of the concepts that's come up over the years here is the prairie friendly beef label. Does that need to be a co-op to organize formally, like Organic Valley, or is that a marketing initiative where there's just a label that person in this region use, and there's a certain standard or amount, ethics or production style, like Faith mentioned, that goes into that. And Yvonne was just a quick example. I just wanted to add that to the mix of all the things that are rattling around in the brain.
Yeah, we work with a company called organization called Cascades Valley. It's another faith-based marketing organization that really just helps certify, so it's a certified branding kind of we don't need to add some to the next certified. And I guess maybe expanding further on that as we're talking about some of these really great ideas that folks have, it's like each one of them are really a business, like its own enterprise, like offering workshops or developing a conference or having a branding strategy or some sort of really anything. It's just considering making that a business and seeing how you can make that self-sufficient and functioning, because and something that can carry through for decades, right? And building the longevity of these initiatives
for this generation, and also the future generation of growers, right? Which is really what we're trying to do, is expand the capacity and the reach and the success of the industry in the region doing this work. So just thinking about it a little bit like the longevity program, like branding.
And then events coming up down the pipe that you should be aware of. Nora.
Yeah, so at the meeting in October today, we talked a lot about your goals and what you're interested in. That list that Sarah kind of facilitated us talking about as a organizing capacity, we looked at that and we tried to chart out some ideas for grazing association meetings, webinars, workshops, and on-farm demonstrations in the next year. And so we sort of put a rough proposal of the next maybe 6-ish months of some things to do, and wanted to share that with you and share a couple of resources that we've put together since that October meeting too. So before I talk about those real quick, at the last meeting, people talked about wanting to have a Facebook group for this that could be a really easy way to stay connected and for you all to connect with each other in between meetings, share resources, share events that you're doing on your farm, share things you might have for sale or really amazing successes you've had. So that Facebook group exists, it's there. I'll make sure that another invite to that gets sent out in a follow-up email to this. And additionally, Sierra has put together sort of like a standing resource page for the Grazing Association that's on the WSU website. I'll make sure a link to that gets sent out too. So that site and our site too will house recordings of webinars. We'll have updated information about upcoming events and things like that, and will be a sort of spot you can go to check for information about this. If those tools are not working for you, or you have another idea of a way we can support you to be an organization, just let us know. I think we're all really open to doing whatever works for you. And that Facebook page, you started to see some great stuff put on there, and definitely encourage you to use that too if that's a platform you use. Good for now.
Any questions about how to access information or any of these opportunities coming up?
Cool. So this is what we sort of charted out. A few of these things have happened. We're at the March Grazing Association meeting right now. Also in March, Sierra facilitated a talk with the Rancher Stewardship Alliance, and that was a great webinar that got put on. It's recorded. It's on that website, and that I'll send the link out to also. And we sort of let's divide up here by kind of event. So the next thing we're looking at doing in April is a pasture walk focused on plant ID and weed management. We've got 2 other pasture walks then kind of every couple of months focused on rotational grazing treatments and pasture design and soil health. And the idea is that those will be at the same pasture each time. So you'll get an opportunity to see somebody's site and see it throughout a couple of seasons and different growing periods as an example. And then, next round we'll go to a different site. So it'll be an opportunity to see each other's places, hear from each other about your programs, and kind of touch on some of these topics. And the idea is too that we'll bring in some different experts and folks to talk about those topics at the Pasture Walk. Also looking to do some workshops, which we're hoping to do most of those also on sites, so you can get opportunities to see more things. So in May, looking at rotational grazing infrastructure, something related to fencing, looking at different fencing models. We can see if we can get a fencing rep or somebody there to talk about different infrastructure options. Then grazing animal nutrition, pasture renovation, and seeding as other sort of hands-on learning opportunity workshops. And a couple of other webinars focused, one focus on kind of the business side of things, so virtual tools for your farm and ranch. At that meeting in October, a lot of people shared interest in like a vetted library of YouTube videos that you could have access to, or like this great idea that Alex brought up earlier, like a pocket guide, things like that. I know different people in this room are using different apps and things for like Herd Boss or different management apps and things like that. So sort of business meetings focused on different tools that you might be able to use. And then doing a locally oriented animal health overview, something next winter that'll maybe kind of bring in a vet or something like that too. So trying to hit on the big topics that we heard at that October meeting and that I kind of heard brought up today as areas that people were interested in some more education or hearing different ideas. Questions? How do those things sound? Does that sound like we're starting to meet what y'all brought forward?
we really want you to come to these, and so we really want them to be topics that you're interested in coming to. So if they're not right, just tell us and we're happy to do different things.
And how will we have, this will be posted on the Facebook, like events?
Yes, yeah. So like today's event was created as an event in Facebook and then also sent out directly to the growing mailing list of this Grazing Association and sort of distributed widely. We'll continue to do that. If you have a favorite way you want us to contact you, definitely make sure that at least my volunteer, you can tell me the best way to reach you, and I'm really happy to make sure that we're kind of keeping a database of who you are and how best to reach you, and I'll manage that. Yeah.
I would add too that specific needs within these topics are really great feedback. Something I heard at my table was like weed management. That's on there, okay, but what about that? You know what I mean? It's like we're battling chicory. That's one of the biggest issues that we have in our pasture. Where some specific management techniques that battle that specific plant. That's perfect information to come, you know, that we can incorporate in these no benefits. Yeah. So also email that to Nora.
Why don't you want chicken?
What?
Why don't you want chicken?
I don't. That's when we hear my table. I'll leave you out.
Where in this do we express the equipment needs issue that has come up for any of our groups?
Good question. That's a topic that has been brought up a lot, so I think it should be incorporated into one of these workshops. Definitely a lot of the equipment that's been brought up has been around like pasture management and treatment. And so probably in some of those plant walks and pasture walks, asking them about what equipment they're using, what equipment they would like to use, and having some more conversation around that. Yes, sir.
So Nora, I'd like to see us do plants that can work in the drought.
Plants that work in drought. Yeah, we talked a lot about that in our small group. That would be really
So as we get warmer and warmer climate, we need to adapt your field structures. Adapt, especially if you don't have irrigation.
This is exactly what I want, because I'm going to add notes to our plans for these workshops right now so that it gets included in there. So,
and so while I'm talking, I'll announce that on April 14th, I'm doing work with the Plant Material Center at Pullman on some cover crops. So we'll have our second field day is on April 14th, so about 2 weeks from now. We're looking at some winter cover crops, some vegetables, some baby clovers, fava beans. We got some good failures, so it's a good time to see what Carolyn's doing back.
will you share that in that Facebook group so that people who aren't here today can find that too?
Yeah.
Great.
So I just talked to Stephen Lee, the guy's name, so it gets to go. Actually, April 14th.
Awesome. Thank you.
And we'll post the address then.
Okay, so I heard plants that work in drought, equipment rental and equipment needs.
I also want to point out that we expect to continue kind of this frequency, like almost every month for another 1 to 2 years. Yeah, so.
This is a multi-year.
Yeah. So what isn't addressed this year, you know, we'll definitely pick up next year.
And I would add on the equipment angle too, again, great feedback. Send Nora, the aggregator of all data. Because that helps. We put in grants regularly, WSU Extension does, Eco Studies, the district, to purchase equipment, right? To add that to our growing repertoire, things that are available for producers in our community. So hearing those specifics is really helpful. The district itself is planning to partner with our partners and put out a survey in the future or a request for feedback. And so we'll go out to this mailing list too for more specifics about, okay, you said you need this. Now, what specifically do you need? What size, what scale, what capacity, what attachments do you need to that? What are you going to use it for? So we can make sure that what we end up purchasing does actually fill that need and not miss the mark. So I would say stay tuned for more on the equipment front, and know that we've put in a lot of proposals in the last couple of months to help bolster our level of preparedness. So fingers are crossed that will come to fruition before the end of this year.
Nick, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, just I know we've already kind of put a lot of thought into this, but there's some individuals here that maybe weren't at the actual meeting.
Yes.
And just some thoughts, if there are thoughts, of how we engage people that may not be on our list, you know, the the mailing list is growing, but there may be some producers out there that visiting to put their hands on the soil to don't know about the Facebook group or the mailing list. So any thoughts on how to engage those people, keep this group growing?
I think something cool I've seen is that there's been a great mixture of experienced and brand new producers coming, at least at the first meeting, and some today too. And so maybe a great challenge for like the next event that you come to is bring a friend or bring, or you know, at least tell somebody else about it too. Doing some word of mouth would be really awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say for producers who aren't really on Facebook or aren't really on technology, if you had a calendar of events and you could mail out a flashy postcard that they can put on their refrigerator. We work a lot for VSP outreach, and even though we don't get a lot of calls necessarily from our postcards, but as we go door to door for our outreach, people see them. You know, we have like a flashy photo, not a ton of information, but if you did like photo on the front, here's our next events for the next 3 months, you know, or however long.
Is that something that we can share it to y'all to help spread out to your producers in this county?
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be awesome.
Oh,
Still hard. Oh, yeah. Chris, can you hear us? We'll let it know. Put in the chat. Any other questions from folks in the room or on the phone about workshops, opportunities coming down the pipe, folks know to contact Nora specifically, she'll aggregate and organize all of us in our lives. Lofty goals, but at least workshops. If you don't think you have my email, I sent you a reminder about this meeting this morning, so you should have it now. Otherwise, just come find me at the end. Great. So that's a really great segue. Do you have any other comments, Sarah? Into, we would love to work more closely with y'all about organizing this and sharing information to and from producer communities and our service provider community. So volunteers that would like to be liaisons for this growing association, really helping to steward that, provide two-way information sharing, be some of those conduit supports, helping to provide lots of feedback. You know, if we're in the middle of planning something, we have a quick question, might not be the best time to send out an email to 50 people, might be something that we can say, hey, you're the liaisons for this group. What do you think? Is this something that would be helpful or not? Should we do X, Y, or Z? What are your thoughts about this? So I think we're looking for volunteers. If there's anybody that's really excited about it, you can jump out of your seat and wave your hands, or just brainstorm. That's fine if you think about it. Yeah, we're looking for producers. Alex. Yeah. Write it down in stone. Alex.
Yes.
Want a new opportunity to help. Mason, are you volunteering? Oh, I'm sorry. You're from Mason County, but I didn't get your name. Thank you. Can you remind me of your name? Mike? Nick. And are you volunteering on our opportunity to, are you volunteering as a producer, or do you want to be in the service provider network?
I get paid to be in the service provider.
Make sure that you're lived in. Cool. Thank you.
But I can as a producer.
Okay. Perfect. Great. We do have space if others want to volunteer for that, and having folks from multiple areas too would be really helpful because we can have multiple communities. If you need a minute to think about it, you have 30 seconds.
Sarah, I think I volunteered, of course, it's been a long time since I've done that. I think I volunteered to work on the virtual tools, and I would love to, does that, I think.
That rings a bell, yeah.
Okay, so it would be very nice to also have someone else to work on that with me. And I would be happy to do that, and I won't start until July.
Great, so that's a really good point, and that if there is a specific topic or a specific event that you are really interested, or you think you have, you'd like people to come to your site, to your property, or to a farm that you work on, that's something also, feel free to communicate that to us, because for all of these, we have the topics, we don't have necessarily the farm nailed down yet, or the individuals that we're gonna be having to speak or share. So if any of these really inspire you, or you feel like you have something to share, or you really wanna devote some time to it, that's also really, it doesn't have to be someone that, you don't have to work across everything, but if there are specific topics that really resonate, that's also helpful. So yes, that's something for planning for the on-farm tools, that would be really great to coordinate.
Tools, and like I said, I probably will not start until July, and I would love to work with someone else.
There were some folks that RSVP'd and expressed interest who aren't here in person today too, so I'll make sure that happens.
I'll volunteer as long as Kelly and help with their soil.
Sounds good.
Like the negotiation.
Okay, deal.
So this is great. So we can do that too. We'll add this to our list of things you can email Nora about. If you're interested, or like Sarah mentioned, if there's a specific thing that you're like, I really want to be involved in that rotational grazing pasture walk and helping design that feedback. Definitely express that. We'll keep track and reach out when that time happens. Great.
And Nora, when there's a piece that's on fencing, can you make sure it also talks about gates and closures?
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Any other questions from the group?
Sharing screens, you can see it.
Or any other questions?
I think everybody except Steve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Otherwise, I think we're ready to wrap up, and thank you guys so much for your time and for being here. The feedback that you provide is invaluable. It's going to give us our marching orders for the next couple of months, which is really helpful. There's also a bunch of case reads that you can take with you. But we
Don't be
be
shy.
for a little bit so we can continue to network. You can ask any of us questions or chat with each other. And I'm going to do a series and then you can stop the recording.
Great. Thank you.